Right, everybody, back with Andrew part two. Sorry for the delay. This is my fault, not Andrew's. I've been exceptionally busy. So I know Andrew's busy a bit himself as well, but I've been really, really busy for weeks and weeks and weeks now. So anyway, finally got round to it. So thanks for your time, Andrew.
Afternoon, David. Nice to be here.
Brilliant. Right. Okay. This is, I
Still
think
haven't
it's,
changed the wallpaper. Still got Thomas the Tank Engine.
I have. It's going to be here till I move
Good.
out, mate. Trust me. I'm never going to decorate it now. Right. This one, I think it's probably a good question to start with, actually, because maybe we should have done this at the beginning of the first video. But he says, Graham Hughes says, after watching the first video, it's a great video. Would love to hear about Andrew's background, previous stories, how he learned what he knows. So, could you just give a bit of? I know there's information on your website which people can go and look at the Back for Profit. There's stuff on there about you, but for anyone who hasn't, can you just give us a bit of background to your how you really got started in racing in general and then trading?
There is a video on the website, yeah, with a bit of an introduction to it. But I've been involved with horses all my life. My grandfather was point-to-point rider and used to work with the horses, the ploughing horses. My father was the same, point-to-point rider horseman. So we've had horses, ponies in the family forever. We were show jumping from when we were kids. Jumped on the British junior team when I was 16. Um, then obviously decided I want to be a jockey and I wanted to be a champion jockey. So I went to briefly to Arthur Stevenson's for 6, 7 months and then moved to Michael Dickinson's, where it was obvious I was never going to be champion jockey. So that dream was over. So I was sort of senior work rider for 4 or 5 years for the Dickinsons. When Michael moved to America, I went to Trees for a couple of years. Then I would have been in my mid late 20s. And you had to make a choice, really. I either ride work for the rest of my life for what was in them days agricultural wages, or I need to get out the job and do something different. Because I didn't fancy technically humping a mucksack around for the next 40 years. Um, so I was at Trees at the time, came back up north, and there was a couple of little lads, local lads, who I'd worked at Michael's with. I was sort of their jockey's agent. But then I was a punter at the same time. So I was sort of a pro punter for 20 years, stroke jockey's agent. I was getting a lot of information off them and the trainers I was speaking to, and a few other things that I was sorting out with handicapping and speed ratings. Driving to the course, I used to. Whenever Smithy lost his license drink driving, I ended up having to drive him to the course as well. So I was at the course most 3 or 4 times a week. Then obviously computers came in and Betfair set up, the computers come in, stuff was moving online. So I sort of realized I would have to get involved in that. I did have to go to Teesside University in a night class to learn how to use a computer when they started. And I remember walking into the room, and there was a load of computers on the side, etc., and chairs, and you just went in, and the students sort of got a chair. There was only one chair on when I went there, and most of the computers had the home screen on. This one had a blank screen, but I did have to ask the lad next door how I turned the computer on because I didn't know how to turn it on. Um, so we learned to turn but computers, and then so although there was sort of 20 years ish as a punter and 20 years as a trader, 5 or 6 years there was a crossover period where I was 95% punting, 5% trading, doing a little bit of pre-race trading. I met Steve Howe at and Lee Keys, two punters at a Betfair do. They sort of showed me a lot of the basics type stuff. So I was messing about pre-race trading for 6 months a year. Then I realized that with the horse knowledge I've got, I need to somehow combine the two. And anyway, sort of 3 or 4 years, 5 years later, we ended up sort of roughly somewhere where we are now, really. But there was bits of trial and error and things. Uh, so that's it, really.
When you started actually trading in running, how long before you started to think, yeah, I can make a good living out of this?
I like the in running. The pre-race trading, I never liked. Nothing wrong with it. Not knocking any pre-race trading, but it had very little to do with the horse racing. It could have just been a set of numbers, wasn't it? And the race
Mm.
starts, you move on to the next race. Um, I sort of more or less knew from even before I started doing it properly that I understood what the jockeys were doing. The courses I've ridden down many of them, or I'd ridden work on them. I understood what the jockeys were thinking and where they were going to make the move and where they thought, Catterick is a track that you'll always start to make a move going down the back straight because everybody knows you got to be in the top 3 or 4 before you turn for home. So I knew going away from the stands, jockeys were thinking, I need to get some room now. I need to get a bit of daylight and try and make a move. So I knew that's where I wanted to be really. So and there's been a few other little jobs. I had a job at a stud once, and I had a job at a stud once, and that was when I was 16 or 17, and they used to have 8 week breaks in the for the jump season. Um, so I was mucking out at the stud, etc. when I was 17 or 18 or 19 when we got laid off for 6 or 7 weeks, and it was at a stud. You used to have an old boy would hold the mare, and uh, and a bloke would bring the stallion out, but you had to have a young lad in the middle to make sure that the stallion got things in the right place. So that was my job. I had to grab the willy and put it in. So I did have a job as a willy putter in her.
I think I'd rather shovel shite out the fucking store than do
Well, yeah,
that.
you've got the mare kicking the hell out of you. The stallion trying to stand on your head, and I have to get hold of its willy and try and make sure that it went in the right place.
Right.
I've had a few strange jobs in my youth. But there's a funny story to start us off with.
Right. I think, as I say,
It's only going to go downhill from now.
I think I'd rather shovel the muck out than do that.
I've
Right.
done plenty of
Okay.
that.
Right. Thanks, Graham, for that question. Right. Right. Someone asked, and we're just gonna get into some trading questions now. Someone says, obviously, doing what we do at Back for Profit, does that success depend on a near perfect strike rate?
Well, you want as high, you're always aiming for as high a strike rate as possible. Yeah, you'd want a good strike rate. If you want near perfect, you'll never get perfect, but obviously you always aim for perfect, but you'll never ever get it. But we would want a high strike rate how we trade. Yeah, yeah.
I think also maybe some people think that you either get a successful trade or you have a complete red where you lose the entire stake. That we don't really do that, do we? Or we
No,
shouldn't
no,
do.
it's very, very important to control and manage the trade. The entry part of the trade is only 50% of the trade. You need to, hopefully, you haven't got too much to do, but you do need to manage the trade from there on in. And I don't like to see any, either myself or any members have a loss bigger than 25% maximum of liability, really. So if you're using a 1,000 quid liability, you shouldn't have many reds if you're going for a nearly perfect strike rate, and the ones you do get should be no more than £100 or two. So,
Yeah.
um, well, you would know from your own personal trading. I mean, we're talking years and years since you would have had a full liability red, and you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I think I think a lot of people when they're new to this, they enter the trade because they've spotted something. Then their brain tells them, I've spotted something else that this isn't going well. But rather than instantly click the close all button and just immediately get out, they in their mind they think, well, I'll just leave it another second or two and hope, the old click and hope that it
yeah,
gets better.
I think some would say that people don't like admitting that they're wrong, so they won't close the trade, etc. I don't like to think of it as anything went wrong, whether you have to close the trade. You enter a trade for specific reasons, expecting, and you should know what I'm expecting. So, such as Katrick, as I just mentioned earlier, I'm entering the trade going away from the stands because I'm expecting them to quicken down the back straight and that gap to open up. Um, if what I'm expecting doesn't happen or something changes, doesn't mean I was wrong. What I expected to happen didn't happen, or something changed, then I'll close the trade basically, because things have changed now. Doesn't mean to say you don't have to admit your wrongs. You entered and something changed. I do remember once a trade I did. I'd closed it about 4 or 5 strides before a hurdle, and the horse fell 4 or 5 strides later. Somebody said, "Why did you close that trade? You could have had, um, you could have made a fortune on that." Well, obviously, if I knew what was going to happen in 5 strides, I wouldn't have done, would I? I can only react on the information that's there at that moment in time. What
Yeah.
happens in the future, I don't know. I'll have to manage the point from there. So if things change, then I will have to change and either close the trade. Um, Things might change and I might put more on. Um,
It's all about decisions, and it's all about
mm,
making the right decisions more often than not. And if the right decision is to enter, then you do.
mm,
And if something changes and the right decision is to exit, then you do it straight away. And as long as you consistently make right decisions, even though you might get lucky or unlucky, I don't know if you remember,
mm.
I always remember it. I did a trade ages and ages ago where you watched the replay and you said, "Yeah, that was a really good trade. You just got a bit unlucky." I don't
I,
know, you
I
remember
I
it?
remember the trade that you
Yeah,
traded one at the end of the back straight.
yeah,
It was, I think, long odds on in second place. Don't normally trade him in second place as long as but I'll make an exception if the long odds on.
yeah.
It was long odds on. It was 3 or 4 lengths down in second place, going absolutely nowhere, and you've made a fortune. Unfortunately for you, and sad as it was, the horse in front broke its leg.
Fucking
Uh,
on the flat. It
yeah,
wasn't a jump, was
yeah,
it?
it was just going round the home bend.
It's
Uh,
literally flipped over on the flat.
yeah, and it was a great trade. Literally
I could have done that
10
trade a
strides
thousand.
later, you'd have made a fortune
Yeah,
or good money. If you did that trade 100 times, you're right 99 times. It was a perfectly good trade. Um,
yeah,
and as I often say, getting the red on that one is not a problem whatsoever. Brilliant trade. The most important factor is, will you do exactly the same next time? Because you must do the same next time. So the red doesn't matter. It's what you do after that that's important. Will you take the same trade on again? Because if you did it 100 times, you'd
yeah.
make good money 99 times. But that's it. Obviously, if you knew it was going to break its leg, you would never have entered. But
No,
that's
no, no.
uh,
Yeah. So yeah, that's it. As long as you keep making the right decisions, eventually that long term
yeah. It
uh, profitability is going to work out, isn't it? Simple as that, really.
yeah, any variance will work out, and you've got to stay calm, think, manage the trade. Some people just enter and then they literally hand off the mouse, just hoping it's green. No, you don't want to hope. You manage the trade until your money's safely back in your pocket, and then you can relax. But stay calm, relax, breathe, um, and react. Believe in yourself as well. There's a trade I did the other day, which was a really good trade. I actually did a video on the Telegram amongst the people, and they said queer green or something it was called. Queer green leaving over the third, over the first, and going 3 lengths clear. I laid it, um, while the commentator said it was over the first 3 lengths clear. Going over the second, they said, yeah, it's queer clear, 2 lengths clear, etc. Price shortened, so I laid it again because actually I knew that wasn't queer green in front. It it was
Right.
in eighth and being pushed and
Yeah.
going nowhere. So believe in yourself, believe in what you're
Yeah.
seeing. I think I like the William Hill, Mr. William Hill himself, when bookmakers used to be bookmakers, quotes that said, believe in 95% of what you see and only 5% of what you hear. And the 5% is dubious, very dubious.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a similar thing once with a favourite and a like 20 to 1 outsider where they both had like those cross like chessboard 4 quarters of like
Yeah,
blue and I think blue and yellow, but
yeah.
one was blue and yellow that way and one was blue and yellow the other way. They looked very, very similar.
Mm.
And the commentator, the 20 to 1 shot when they were coming I don't know, there's about half a mile to go. The 20 to 1 shot, bless him, made an effort and moved forward. And there's like a leading group of about four, and he's come up behind them, and he's like, if it was the odds-on favourite, you'd have thought, oh yeah, he's making his
Yeah.
move now, he's coming up, and it looked, it was putting an effort in, and the commentator said, oh, whatever the favourite is, he's coming up now, and it wasn't the favourite. The favourite was still out the back. So I've had a similar one myself. That was
Yeah.
about 3 or 4 years ago, I think. So yeah, it does happen. But the other thing as well is that even when it's there's no mistake about what the horse is. I've looked at horses and I've thought that is just not traveling well. I don't care what the market says when the market is shortening the price, and I just think no, it is not running well. And you just have to be brave and back yourself, don't you?
Yeah, because sometimes you often hear comments in all sorts of things where they'll say, "Oh, they're backing this." My answer is, "Who's there?" If you could give me some names, I might be interested. So if you said JP McManus has just had 10 grand on this, or Barney Curley's just had 10 grand, I'd be interested. But the market's fancying this. Who's the market? It could well be a Monday. There's a load of footballers with now to do and a load of money, and they keep backing this because it's called Harry's son, and he's got a son called Harry. I don't know who they are. So unless it says whose the money is, then I'll believe what I see, and I'll trust my own judgment. And my P&L over 20 years says my judgment's usually right more times than I'm wrong. But you have to believe yourself. The market is only made up of people, and your opinion is just as good as anybody else's.
Right. Okay. Oh Lord is asked, uh, what's the best thing to do to protect yourself from overtrading? Now, this is something which is not totally unique to Back for Profit, but I think if we're known for anything, it's the fact that we don't
I
overtrade, or we
don't.
shouldn't be overtrading. So how would I mean? I remember what you did to me when I first started.
I wouldn't repeat that on the. I wouldn't repeat that on the video. There was a lot of
Okay,
swear words involved in that.
well, you threatened to shoot me.
I think I did. Yeah, yeah. I think I did. Yeah, maybe not as polite as that. It's a difficult one, isn't it? It's a difficult one, but ultimately that is what separates the winners and the losers. It's down to yourself. People have different ways of doing things. Um, what's good for you might not work for somebody else, but it is something that somehow, if you want to be a successful trader and a winner, and believe me, it feels a lot better going to bed on a night having won money
Mm,
and or at least not lost any money. Um, you have to really find out what works for you. That might be um, even now. I like to spot, a bit a particular race. If I'm not in after half, I don't like getting involved. I will nearly at 3/4 mark in most races get up and walk away from my desk and go and put the kettle on. I don't always make a cup of tea. It just gets me away from the desk so I don't get involved.
mm,
So uh, I'd love to say I have an easy answer that can stop. I believe this is true, so I don't suppose Peter Webb is watching it. But if he is what, if he is watching it, he'll say I've quoted him wrongly. But um, I heard a story that when Peter was starting out, that he's a bit of a tidy freak and likes his computer tidy. Um, so from a pre-race point of view, there might be things that you don't want to do. Don't let it go in play, etc., etc., etc. Things that you need to stop. So he stuck post-it notes all over his computer saying, "Don't let it go in play," and it made his computer look a mess, which he hated because he was a bit of a clean freak. But he wouldn't allow himself to take those off until he did X amount a week or a month until he'd broken that habit. And obviously, that, if it's true, it worked for him. I know somebody else who's do similar things. Somebody eats anchovies. If ever the going to the last 75% of the race, they absolutely detest them, and they still have a jar of anchovies on their desk to this day. So I'd love to give everybody an easy answer,
mm.
but
I think when I
but
well
there
when I
isn't.
came to Back Profit, I'd left a different style of trading behind, in running trading behind, where my plan was to win a fiver a race, but trade 20 races a day when I first started doing in running. I thought it's got to be easy to win a fiver. Can't be that hard to win a bloody fiver. If I can do that on 20 races, that's 100 quid. It's easy life, isn't it? So I started off, and then of course it's bloody harder than you try and then you think. And then of course what happens is when you're looking for trades and looking for trades and looking for trades and looking for trades, you end up trading something which you shouldn't really be trading at all. And that's what most people do. And therefore you might do five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10 trades perfectly fine. And then you push one and you get a full liability red. And then that's all those 10 profits are gone and more. And then you're now, instead of winning 10 fivers for 50, you're now 11 races in and you're down 100 quid because you've lost 150 on that last race. So now you're 100 quid down. So now you're chasing, and then God knows, well, we all know what's going to happen in the next race. It's going to go completely tits up. So that's what I used to do. I used to have terrible problems. I remember one day, the worst day I ever had, really, when I nearly smashed my computer up. I traded and traded and traded a few races, not many, just a few, and I had a big red, like a big red, and I was like some crazy amount down. I must have been 200 quid I'd lost. So I was like £200 down, and I just thought, I'm not having this. I will not be beaten. And I just traded and traded. And I started trading about 12:15 lunchtime. At 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, I'm trading Wolves. I'm still trying to get this 200 quid back, and I've got from like minus 200 back to about minus 30 or 40 quid. And then I've had another massive red and lost another 150 quid. And I've nearly smashed the computer up. And I just thought, I've got this, just can't go on. I can't do
There's
this any longer.
it. It is unfortunate. It's a habit like smoking, etc.,
Mm.
that you have to stop, and it's not easy, and it will be painful. I say I haven't got any perfect answers other than just take a day at a time and think, I'm not going to overtrade today. I'm just going to do an hour. If there's something easy, I'll take it. If not, I'm going to switch off and go for a walk, and force yourself to turn off and go for a walk. Uh, and hopefully, if you can break that habit, and then maybe at the end of the week or the month, you see, oh, well, I didn't lose 500 quid like I did last month. I've made 80 quid. Uh, and it feels a lot better. And I feel a
Yeah.
lot better in myself. And you'll still have that urge, just like having a cigarette.
Mm.
Yeah, you'll still read a bit of something on Twitter. You'll smell a bit of smoke wafting from the neighbour's garden. You think, oh, I could murder a fag. I could have a right good gambling session this afternoon. But that urge will get less and less in time. And I like a bet. I have a bet on my own horses. There's plenty of times I feel like, yeah, I could have a right good smash at some gamble this afternoon, but this is work, and I have to think of it as this is work. So I have said to the odd member that, if you like a little bet, this is work, and do your hour and a half, couple of hours, whatever it is, at work, but then have a separate account. Let's say you can afford to lose 50 quid gambling then. So put 50 quid in a different account, BetDAC then. Um, do your hours work, turn your computer off, uh, go on to BetDAC, have a few little 2 quids, watch the racing, have a little bit of fun, have a little gamble if that gets rid of that urge, maybe. But this is work, and it's not exciting. The best part about working is finishing, turning BetAngel off for the day
Yeah, just
and
now.
finishing,
Yeah.
because it's
That's
work. It's
that's
not
how I'm changed.
exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not exciting. It's not fun. It's work. It pays the bills. It pays the council tax,
I
etc.,
know.
etc. And the sooner we can get some wages and pockets full and turn the computer off, this is work. I remember somebody that traded for the afternoon and then finished and then turned back on later on in the evening to trade again. And you're thinking, uh, why? This is work. Why didn't you go and do your job? Why didn't you go back into the factory for 2 hours that evening? No, you wouldn't do that, but you will turn your computer back on. What, to make 8 quid or a tenner? Are you that desperate for a tenner? You've got to turn your computer back on at 8 o'clock at night. But you wouldn't go back into the factory and earn a tenner an hour, whatever they get paid. But you would turn the computer on. This is work, and it should be treated as work. But you can have a separate account and have a little bet for fun if you want. But try and keep them
When,
separate.
when I first joined, what I didn't realize what back for profit was all about, really. And when I first joined in the Telegram room, the first couple of days, we'd start the racing at like first race to be 1 o'clock or whatever. And then by about two, half two, all the people like yourself, all the regulars who were good traders were all finished and they were all turned off. And there'd be like probably 10 or 12 people typing in the room, each in the trading room. And then after about 2 hours, there'd be me left and one other person I won't name, um, who's no longer with the group. And we'd be there and we'd still be trading at 4:30, 5 o'clock, just the two of us. And obviously, early part of the day, I got those easy trades that you and the other guys got that then made you turn off. So I banked a bit of profit there. But then so many days, around about 3:30, 4 o'clock, I'd have a disaster where I just trying to force a trade. So it takes a while. So just for anyone's benefit, what Andrew said to me was you can only do 4 trades a day. So
Did I say four? I thought I said three.
four, no, four, you said.
Did I? Must have been generous with you.
It
You
was
must have
very
caught me on a
generous.
good day.
So you said four. And the idea was that obviously if I'd done those first couple of trades that everybody else did that made them switch off, that would have been 2 trades in, and then I could have just probably switched off. But what it made me do as well was I knew I could only do four. So sometimes I was entering a trade, exiting a trade quickly, like scratching it, or maybe doing a small one, which wasn't a very good one. And I was thinking, well, I've wasted one of my trades now. I'd have been better off waiting for a better one because I'm only allowed to do four, and I've
That was the
wasted
thought
one.
process I was trying to get into you, that
Yeah,
you've only got 4 bullets, so use them wisely. Don't
yeah,
waste them on daft things and
yeah.
what have you. Yeah,
And
I
that's
was I was really just a bit like the smoking. I was just trying to break your habit of
yeah,
uh whether obviously it worked with you, but say different things might work with other people, but you have to find someone to break that habit. And yeah,
yeah.
I was just saying, yeah, use them bullets wisely.
And now, but now it's changed for me now. My biggest excitement now is to be the first one to switch off Bet Angel in the group. So we're all in the group. We all start. The first race comes up that fits our criteria, and we're all in the group. And if you get a nice early trade where you're in before when they're going past the
Mm.
finishing line for the first lap, and you enter there and you're out as they're going around the corner into the back straight, and I'm typing in, that's me done. Thanks very much. See you tomorrow. That's, I love that. I love it. One of the 5 minute,
Yeah,
what we call a 5 minute day.
works
It gives
done
me
for
a
the
real
day, innit?
buzz. Yeah, it
Always
gives me
best
a real
part of the
buzz.
always best part of the day. But people do think I often have a rule that you can only do one. I haven't got any rules that says you can only do one, but um, yeah. But there isn't an easy answer to stop over trading. Um, but somehow you need to break the habit. Say like smoking, not easy.
Yeah.
But somehow you have to break it. It does get easier. But I do know. I remember somebody asking me, "Well, does it get easier 20 years later?" Uh, No, I used to smoke, and there is still times now I'd kill somebody for a fag. Uh, but it does get easier. It doesn't
Yeah.
ever go away completely. Say, I'd still love to go and have 5 grand on a horse now sometimes, but it gets easier. It gets
Yeah.
easier. Uh,
Yeah, the four trade rule for me helped me a lot because there was odd trades where I was thinking, not sure,
mm,
not sure. I won't trade it. I'm going to wait.
mm,
And then if you do that enough times, eventually you get one of those what we call a Stevie Wonder trade, which is so obvious a
mm,
blind man can see it. And we then,
mm,
pile onto that. And then all those races that you didn't trade meant that you're in the right frame of mind because you weren't in the red.
mm.
You're in the right frame of mind when the good opportunity comes along. And that's really what people should try and think about is don't do anything where you're not quite sure.
Yeah,
Just
I
leave
like
them
the
alone.
if in doubt, stay out.
Yeah, definitely.
If you finish the day on no trades, not lost any money, I can assure you you'll feel a lot better going to bed that night than how you felt when you went
I know.
lost your 200 quid
I
traded
know.
at 8 o'clock at night. You'll feel a lot
Yeah.
better having not done a trade. Your bank's intact, your mind's intact, your confidence intact. Oh, you can't wait for tomorrow's racing. You'll feel a lot better than going to bed a loser.
And
And say somehow you have to break your mindset and think, no, I want to be one of the winners. I want to be one of the 5% or whatever percentage
yeah.
it is. Be a winner.
And the other thing about that day as well, if you look at it, if you looked at every trade I did on that day, where I probably traded 25 races or something stupid, right? If you looked at all of those 25 trades, there were probably 4 or 5 trades in there which were bloody brilliant, really good trades, really easy trades.
Mm.
Where if I just done those, I'd
You
have
could
had a
have
good
just done
day.
those for 100 quid green and have
Yeah,
400 or 500 quid wages for the day.
yeah. I mean, the very first conversation we ever had on the phone was I said to you, you said to me, "What are you doing at the moment?" I said, "Well, I'm trying to do 20 trades a day for a fiver a race." And your answer was, "Why don't you just do one for 100?" And I thought, is he nuts, this bloke? He doesn't know what he's talking about. I thought that can't be right, but I realise now he really
There
is.
was somebody on Twitter once, I don't know if I've said this story before. Somebody on Twitter, nothing to do with me and nothing to do with, I don't think anything to do with horse racing, said he'd come up with something or other that was to do, I don't know if it was one bet, one trade or something a day, and he had a near perfect strike rate. So after 2 years, he'd done uh, one bet or trade every day. So I don't think it was even horse racing, near perfect strike rate. So and he'd put his results up and they were really good and he'd made X amount of profit for 2 years. And his sort of final comments were, if I can just get another 9 of these, get 10 a day, I can pack my job in and have a most wonderful life. So I replied with, why don't you just do that same one, but 10 times the stake? Um, Other than go looking for another 9, that there probably isn't another 9 there.
There won't be.
There'll be another 4 or 5 there that so if his original one was a 98%, 99% trade, there'll be another 4 or 5 that are 95% trades, and the other 4 or 5 will be 85% trades. And I think it was something like Premier League he was doing. So you think, well, it's easy for you to just put 10 times the stake in. There's plenty of money in there.
But
Um,
it's one of the markets where you can get a lot of money, isn't it? Really.
yeah.
Okay, the next question says, have you noticed any decay or decline or edge in your profits? Are you still as sharp as you were 5 or 10 years ago?
Ooh, I'm not seeing any decline in my profit or edge. No, because what we do is probably quite unique on the whole, I would suspect. Um, Profit probably has gone down a bit, but that's nothing to do with any decline in edge or anything. It's probably, it probably fits in with the next bit. Am I as sharp? On a good day, I'm as sharp as I ever was, but I get less good days now I'm getting older. Uh, Probably, mortgages paid off with no mortgages, with no loans, no credit cards. We've got a nice house, got a horse or two in training, a few quid in the bank. I'm into my 60s now. I probably aren't as motivated as I used to be, and that's probably where I am. So I'm into my 60s now, where I might have got uh 28 sharp days and 2 not sharp days 10, 15 years ago. Now I get 28 can't be bothered days and 2 sharp days. But I can scrape a bit of bread and butter trades out of most of them. But if for some reason my granddaughter's the love of my life, if I had to trade for her life or something or other one day, I could still be as sharp as I ever was. But I am getting older, and eventually the next generation will take over from me and you, and that's how life should be, shouldn't it? But just for those that think they want to do it now, I still do think I have a few years left. So, so don't think you can beat me just yet. But
I
I
know.
am, but I am getting older, and I am getting a little bit lazier,
I think I've been a member now. What's 5 years? Is it something like? I think
something
it's
like
five
that. I
years. Something
think,
like.
yeah.
I think I think of all the trades you've ever done where you've told me what price you entered at, I think probably in 5 years, well, definitely not more than two. Might only be one. One time, maybe two if I'm being generous. I got a better price than you twice in 5 years. So yeah, you ain't
Uh,
doing bad, Andrew.
No, I'm still, I say, on my day, I'm still as sharp as ever. But I would say those days are getting less. Nothing to do with any edge or decaying, this, that, and the other. Just the fact that technically I'm getting old and fat. and uh, that's
What
and
is a good question? What's changed the most since you very first started trading in running to now? What has anything changed? What's changed the most in trading in general?
I suppose technology and pictures, and now you have drones and TPD, and I mean generally the horse racing. Horse race is a horse race, isn't it? They still react, they still move. Jockeys still make the same mistakes as they always do. Um, I think there's more money in the markets now. Some will say that the overall Betfair has gone down. I think the in-play markets have gone up, but I haven't got any figures. Some cleverer people than me can give figures. I did watch an Irish race the other day in the evening, and there was only about 90 grand match went before that as they jumped off. That's very, very low for an evening meeting. But there was over 200 grand match by the time the race finished.
Mhm.
Well, I think it used to be 20% of pre-race money. So in which case, at
Yeah,
90 grand, there should have been only 110 or 20 grand match by the
yeah,
end of it. There was 200 grand matched. So I think a lot more people are trading in play now. Whether that's the younger ones think it's sexier, more exciting. I think there's more people trading. There's more talk about it. Um, you've got things like sectional timing and stride data and all these things. Things like sectional times, we never had sectional times. They weren't available to people years ago. The BHA are doing some trials with heart rate monitors on horses. So whether in the future,
hope they don't start doing heart rate monitors on traders. I think
yeah, so whether you'd be able to
yours has just fell.
Oh, that will affect the future. I don't know. You might be able to get that up on your screen that a horse's actual real-time heart rate is on your screen while you're trading. Obviously, going back to the right before the start, um, there was no bet angel then.
Right.
We traded off the Betfair screen, so you'd have to put your money in and keep clicking refresh until it was taken, and then put some other money in. And so you'd put 100 quid in, keep pressing refresh till it was matched, then put your other 100 quid on the other side, but refresh, and then try and put a tenner in to equalize it up or something or other. So there was no Bet Angel and no other software like that then. So, and Peter Webb's always updating Bet Angel, so we're always largely ahead of the game. That's continually getting updated with new features, new things, which probably has made life an awful lot easier. With using BetAngel now, you can almost trade almost without looking at the software, continually looking at the screen. If we've got the setup right, you start the mouse off over that favorite. To some degree, you don't even need to look at the software to
Yeah.
trade. That makes a huge. The software's made a huge, huge difference.
Okay. Right. Oh, this interesting one from Scott. He says, I never understood why you only take out 30% of liability. Um, let me just, in case some people want to understand what on earth we're talking about there. Basically, when uh, back for profit members place a lay bet, say, let's do a lay bet, it's easier. And let's say we tend to use liability, but let's assume it's a fixed stake of 10 quid to make the maths easy. When that gets to a position that you are making a 30% profit, i.e., 3 quid on the 10 quid, that's where your offsets will be, and you'll green up and you'll make a £3 profit on the £10 stake, which is 30%. So every time we enter a trade, when we get 30% profit on the stake, we green up, and that's the end of it. So why did you choose, or how did 30% ever come about?
Um, it wasn't chosen by accident. During that first 4 or 5 years when I was sort of experimented with all sorts of different things. I spent hours and hours, hundreds and thousands, hundreds of hours, testing out, checking things. I started off with 20%, but it wasn't enough to cover any losses you may have made. 30% mark, just over 32, 33% was the sweet spot. 50% didn't always hit it. then it was not always easy to get back out again. 20% you weren't making enough money. So 30 odd percent was that just the sweet spot. And then it was tested out for well over a year. And I ran various things, doing 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, where I clicked simultaneously and they all fired in and I checked which was the profitable and more sweet spot. And the 30% marker was the sweet spot. Um, you'll always remember the ones where you've traded out and it's pulled up to later, or I knew it was beat. You'll never remember the ones that I didn't, that I got, it just managed to go to 35% and come back and win, and I'd have never got myself back out. The fact that that's taken us out automatically, we're first in the queue, we're first there because our money's already there. So we're the first one out, and then it comes back. But you'll only remember the ones that I could have got a full. Somebody asked me that
Was it
recently
Shish?
about
Was it Shishkin? What was that yellow and black one at China?
Shishkin,
Is it
where he
Shishkin?
pulled up.
Yeah, you'd have
Yeah,
won a bloody fortune if
I
you'd have
know,
cancelled
but I
your
couldn't,
upsets.
I couldn't get them cancelled. But somebody did ask me that just literally the other day, last week, that um, so why would you trade out of those obvious ones? My argument to that is, which ones are the obvious ones? Because how many times have those horses hit 1,000 and go on to win? I suppose they were obvious, were they? But they went back on to win, and you could have ended up chasing losses all the way down, always being behind, etc.
Mm.
So, in theory, if it is 100% certain that it won't win, yeah, you can cancel the offsets, but nothing's 100% certain that it won't win.
It
Uh,
was,
you only have to look at the one that jumped off his horse the other day. You maybe didn't see that.
yeah.
Or the 101s
And
the
but funny enough, you
101s.
said you said I didn't see it. Even I heard about that on Twitter. It's all over Twitter. So even I heard that, and I
Yeah,
wasn't even trading.
the 101s that, go on to get beat, the thousands that go on to win. Um, somebody asked me once again 6 months ago. So what's wrong with just taking free money? I have no problem in just taking free money, other than there
Mm.
isn't much free money about. It comes with a price.
Mm. No, I
Um,
think as well. The other thing, I mean, I remember a race, I don't know, a couple of years ago, must be now, where 6 or 7 horses either jumped a fence or missed a fence out that they either should have jumped or shouldn't have jumped, and they missed it out. And the horse that was in eighth place was given the
mm.
win. Well, what if you'd laid that because it was like
I
out the
remember that
back?
race. Yeah, yeah,
It happens, doesn't it? So,
yeah,
and the thing is as well that people don't understand with back for profit is we're not looking to lay horses we think are beaten. We're looking to lay a horse where we're looking at it now and thinking that price is going to drift
yeah.
because of what's happening now, where it is in the race, where the other main contenders are in the race. Based on that, this price is going to drift, and that's all we're looking for. So if it drifts 30%, we get paid. If it then you know, moves forward and it gets back into contention, they very often win. I
Mm,
mean, I can't even remember dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of times I've got a successful trade out of back for profit
mm,
because I've laid on the price has moved, I've got my 30%, and the horse has then gone on to win. Or, I mean, I had one not so long back where um, it looked to be beaten.
mm.
I got the 30% and I more or less switched off and I wasn't even looking. And then as I'm looking at the TV, I'm thinking, what's happened there? And it came past the finishing post, like literally beating the shortest of short heads.
The
And if I
Sean Bourne this season's riding like a demon. I've seen him going to the last 20 lengths down on horses that
really
I would have pulled up. And
no
then
right to
suddenly,
win.
as they're showing the two racing towards the line, something on the wide outside's coming fast and furious and gets up, and you think, that's that thing Sean Bourne should have pulled up on. He's
Yeah.
riding, he's riding like a man possessed. Um, but as you say, we're not necessarily looking for beaten horses. We're looking for price movements. So yes, you'll only remember those because those that did go on to get beat, but we didn't know when we entered at the time that this was beaten, it will pull up or it will fall. We're just looking to trade that price movement. And yes, if I know for certain it's going to pull up, then I'll cancel the offsets and put everything I've got in the bank on it. But we are only making a decision with the information we have at the time. The 30%, etc., you'll only question that largely after the result. Well, that's
Yeah.
easy. It's easy after the result, isn't it?
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
yeah. So, but it's something I've tested out for many years. I've tested all sorts of different percentages, and that was the sweet spot that made me enough money. Um, but kept me strike rate right, kept my losses right, kept my mind right, my confidence, my bank, kept the bills getting paid.
All right. This one's someone said related to the flat racing. Obviously, we're in that time of year now.
Mm.
Um, this person says they have difficulty with flat racing, which I can, fully understand that because the basic speed of
Mm.
the thing, it goes a lot faster. So, what percentage of trades do you do on flat or national hunt? And obviously, if you can touch on the when it comes to the flat sort of distances, you will and won't try it.
Um, Probably not tons of 60-40 jumps flat, probably. Um, it could be 65-35, but that's not necessarily trading relating. It's just the summer's coming in it. Weather's nice. Want to sit in the garden when the sun shines out. So I've made a good few quid over the winter, etc. I don't need to sit there all afternoon when the sun's shining and the birds are singing, really. Um, Anybody that, if, and I would say don't particularly fight. If you like trading the jumps and you're profitable trading the jumps, then trade the jumps really well. You've got summer jumping. You've got races over a mile and a half. Don't worry too much about them, except the fact that you make 80% of your money during the winter, which is there's a bonus to this because you can trade a bit less in the summer and enjoy the sunshine. But just
Yeah.
stick to. We've got. I mean, there was a. I don't know if it was last Sunday or the Sunday before. 3 meetings on, all jump meetings. Um, so almost every day there's one or two jump meetings through the summer. You can just do those and say stick to a mile and a half on the flat. So um,
I think if there was four jump meetings and four flat meetings every single day forever, I'd probably never trade a flat race in my life, because I just wouldn't. But having said that, when I'm fine on the flat when I get used to it. So like I haven't traded now, as I said, I've been very busy and I've been so busy at work. But if I started trading now, almost certainly I would reduce my stakes initially. But if I traded every day, once I get into it, I'm okay. But I wouldn't want to start trading 7 furlong races, 6 furlong, 7 furlong races right now when I haven't traded for 6 weeks with a full stake. I wouldn't feel comfortable with that.
that
But
would be
if I
something.
tr
Yeah, I would say with a lot of people that you get towards the end of the flat season, they start panicking, and my usual response to that is just don't panic. You don't have to. You don't have to steam straight into the flat. Have a week or two with smaller stakes or something. Just trade the summer jumping, trade the longer distance races, and just have a little week or two
yeah,
with smaller stakes, etc. There's
and
nothing to be
also
frightened
also
of.
also for us as well, when we're looking for these price movements, um, it's often much better on the flat because the prices can change. You spot it, and the prices change, and the
Mm.
market moves very quickly, and it all happens a bit fast. You can actually get a
Yeah,
trade in and out in like 5 seconds. It's gone. You're greened up.
I do like the flat to trade. Um, so I enjoy trading the flat. Usually about two-thirds, three-quarters of the way through the jump season, I'm ready for the flat to start
Right.
trading. And probably very shortly when we got
There's a,
the derby coming up this weekend. When that meeting's over, I'll be looking forward to the jump starting again. Which
right.
probably, in fairness, what are we now? June, couple of months, be getting
Yeah.
going again. Probably, to be honest, two or
I
three
think
months.
because the other alternative, of course, is you and I know both when it comes to a 3 mile hunter chase or something,
Mhm.
and you enter a trade and you're thinking, yeah, I'm entering this trade because I think the price is
Oh,
going to
I'm
move,
going to be in
and
20 minutes.
it's going out one tick at a time, and you're like,
Yeah,
half a bleeding lap of the track, and you still haven't greened up because the prices are just sluggish.
yeah.
Whereas if it was a flat, you'd enter, probably a furlong, 2 furlongs, that's it, you'd be out, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, you get Wolverhampton 7 furlongs. I can enter after half a furlong and be out 3 seconds later, and I've done that God knows how many times. Uh, whereas you say 3 mile chase at wherever Chepstow on soft ground in the middle of January, uh, we could well be in for. Well, you could be in for 5 minutes, in fairness.
Yeah, but and of course, the longer you're in the trade, the more chances something's going to go wrong, isn't it? Really simple as
Yeah,
that.
yeah. But so I probably largely do 60%, so 65% uh, jumps and 35% flat, something like that, 40% flat. But that's some of that will be because I get a bit even lazier in the summer, I suspect. In the winter, there's no else to do, is there?
Uh, just moving on then, another question. When you obviously you mentioned at the beginning that you were started off as a jockey and
Mm.
used to do
Well,
work
I lose
and
the
stuff.
term jockey useless.
Yeah,
I,
but
I,
yeah,
I only
let's
rode
say
a couple of winners and I wasn't very good.
you rode you. I won't ask you today, but you can tell us another time. You rode a horse for Barney Curley once. That's a funny story. But anyway, we'll talk about that another day. But you used to ride in the business, let's say, and then you were like a punter, really. You made your money professional punting. So, what's the biggest mindset shift from betting to trading? What would you say is the difference between a better, whether they're a professional punter, to a trader? What's the
My betting
biggest?
was not dissimilar to my trading, to be honest. It was very disciplined. Um, with value, the same things. If I drove 3 hours to back a horse at 9 to 4, if I got there and I could only get 7 to 4, I'd have to drive all the way home and not back it. Um, so I wouldn't back it. So, and that patience, that discipline, my punting style was very, very similar to my trading style. So for me, not a huge difference. I still have that same discipline mindset. I want the prize. I don't. I probably come from although I've earned my living for 20 years ish punting and 20 years ish trading. I probably maybe I'm not really much of a gambler. I don't like losing money. I don't like spending money. I'm a Yorkshireman. I don't like losing money. Um, so I've got to have value, whether I'm punting or trading. I've got to have value. Um, and those two things are probably both the same, I suspect.
Okay, Yorkshireman.
I
Right.
know, I know. Yeah, we won't have the jokes about a coin hitting me on the back of the head or something that
No,
boss
no, I
keeps
won't
telling
say
me.
that. That's it. When you're about to do watch a race that you're preparing to trade, what's your preparation like? What are you thinking about before the race even starts? What are you looking at?
I don't do any I don't do well, any great study. I don't do any studying. All the information I've got is on my screen in front of BetAngel, etc., etc. But I must have that 2 or 3 minutes before the race starts to sit down, make sure I've got a bit like that race I just mentioned earlier, where the commentator's doing the wrong colour. I need to make sure I've got the right colours. That colour matches the number cloth. Is there anything obvious on the horse? Got a sheepskin noseband? Has it got a Jane Chapelheim white bridle or something? Is there got a big white face? I need to make sure I've got the right colours, right number. Might be looking for a few little signs. How's it walking round? What type of horse does it look like? Is it lazy? Is it a sharp sort? Um, so I do like that few minutes beforehand, but I aren't doing any studying to see which one's likely to front run. I'll be able to see walking round. Whoever's lining up in front's most likely to front run. Whoever's lining up out the back's most likely to be out the back. So I don't have any preconceived ideas about form. Obviously, when you're watching racing day in, day out, there's certain horses you get to know and a few little characters. I don't necessarily think that's an advantage, mind. I probably lost more money than I've made because I wouldn't lay so and so because I thought
Mm.
he's a good horse. Where, um,
Well, I wouldn't know.
yeah, I think on the whole it's better not knowing. Just trade what you see. But I do like that couple of minutes. I like to get settled with my cup of tea, make sure I breathe, make sure I'm in the right frame of mind. Is my phone turned off? Um, just to make sure I'm sort of, for what I don't like the term, I'm in the zone. I'm ready, I'm focused, um, uh, which is, I'm not a big lover on Saturdays where they end up a right mess, to be honest. Prefer it where I can just keep calm, keep breathing.
Okay. Can you give us one or two perhaps common mistakes that people new to in running horses might make? What would be the common mistakes that you would notice?
But overtrading's one, isn't it? As we've touched on earlier, but also do getting in too late. Um, I don't get in after 75% of the race. And that's a hard one because that's where all the action starts. But the markets can move very, very fast. If you've laid something going over the first or the second or the first furlong in a mile and a half, it's not going to go from 2.5 to 1.5, 1.1 or anything like that. But in that last bit of the race, you're looking at on this ground this time of year, 0.16 second a length. So 2 lengths, a third of a second, 0.3 of a second for 2 lengths. Uh, so it could go from 3 lengths down to in front in that last 70% of the race. And it could crash from 2.5 to 1.2
Mm,
instantly. So getting in late, but that's the time where effectively all jockeys get to 2 out, 2 furlongs, 3 furlongs out. That's when all the accelerators are getting pressed, and that's when you'll see the slaps and kicks and the push. But also, that's where the market's at its most volatile, and your margin for error at that point is virtually zero. You must be right. So I would avoid the last 30% of the race.
mm,
Um, if you get in early, you may not make any money, but you won't lose much money. And that's always rule one. Don't
mm.
lose any money. I can live with members that yeah, you haven't made any money. Well, have you lost any? No. That's fine. I can sleep at night knowing you haven't lost any money. The rest will come. So over trading and getting in late are the two big mistakes. If you stop most of that, so I'm not saying you'll make any money, but you'll be losing an awful lot less. That is for certain. And you'd have good solid foundations to build on from there.
Yeah. Uh, is there any types of races that you're wary of in terms of, I don't know, juveniles, novices, that sort of stuff, amateur jockeys? Do you pay any more attention to that sort of thing?
Um, I don't like. I tend to not. I like juvenile races. I tend not to like the big Grade One races. Ultimately, Grade One horses, Grade One tracks. You expect them to travel well, travel to 2 or 3 out, and it's the best horse home from there on inwards. Um, I like your novices, your juveniles, claimers, sellers, hunter chases, apprentice races, because that's more likely where the horses will be dogs and rogues. The jockeys are more
Yeah.
likely to make a mistake. I'm not saying they're clueless, but uh, you know, David Maxwell, as much as I personally don't mind David Maxwell as a jockey, an amateur jockey, he could do anything. Um, and yeah, things like that, where you got tracks where you got, lower end tracks. What I don't like is the big Grade One fair tracks. Newbury, lovely course, beautiful course. York, wonderful. Love to go there. Love to watch the racing there. But from a trading point of view, not so good.
I know.
Jockeys is interesting that you'll get to know certain jockeys and how they ride and their style of riding. Um, other than Luke Morris, and I haven't got a clue what Luke Morris does. So I can't tell with Luke Morris whether he's going well or going badly. But you
It's,
got Brian Hughes sits very,
uh,
very quiet. If Brian Hughes is moving, he ain't going well because he sits like a mouse on him. And I know exactly the angle he'll be. I know how straight his back will be. If he's not as I expect him to be, I know something's wrong, and I know he's going to get pushed and slapped. 5, 6, 10, 20 strides before it actually happens because I can tell by his movement. That's something that just comes in time. Sean Bourne, there's a BFP member. He probably because the fellow Welshman. I think he knows what Sean Bourne's going to do before Sean Bourne knows what he's going to do. So, with the odd exception, Luke Morris, I have no idea how Luke Morris is going.
He always looks like he's waving his arms around like a bloody windmill,
I
doesn't
like
he?
Luke Morris. I have nothing against him whatsoever, but to try and work out how he's going,
Uh,
you were a bit of a poker player. He
uh,
would be. I don't know how you'd tell what he's holding in his hand because
uh.
yeah, you wouldn't have a clue.
When I first started trading a long time before I even joined Back for Profit, I must have lost money on Luke Morris. You're thinking he's under
It,
pressure. He's pushing this horse like it's dying on
mm.
its feet. But it's just the way he is, isn't he? He's always waving his
Just
arms
that's
about.
just yeah, he could be absolutely cantering have a double
Yeah,
handful left and you wouldn't have
yeah,
so but they're just things that you pick up. There'll be certain
yeah.
jockeys that you know and like, say Brian Hughes. Um he's a jockey that I understand well. Harry Skelton understand well. Harry Cobden, big long loopy rein. You'll get to know those, and you get to know sort of little tells and things as to maybe he's not going as well because he's not normally sat like that. That just you don't have to know that. People will always find their level. Um, it doesn't mean you can't be a profitable trader without knowing all that, but maybe you might not be top of the Premier League, but you can still make a good few quid.
Okay, then let's finally to finish then. What if somebody was to join Back for Profit? They've obviously seen my
Mm.
videos I did before, the previous interview, this one. I don't know how long we've been going actually, but if it's been a long time, I might even split this into two. We'll see how we go. But anyway, uh, what what would, and I know you never like to push yourself, but what would people benefit? Traders who are maybe they've tried pre-race, didn't work, tried in running, and it's probably not working. What would they gain if they were to join Back for Profit? How would it help them?
Wow, that's a hard question, isn't it? Uh, well, there's no magic wand. There is no magic wand or secret sauce as people would think. But I genuinely want as many people as possible to do well. Um, you will be surrounding yourself largely with a group of profitable traders of all sorts of different levels, whether that be, there's a member who's been with me more or less from day one. He makes £100 or £200 a week in, week out. Only has one ambition to top his pension up and then naff off for three or 4 days in the Yorkshire Dales. Never be any better, never earn any more than that. And we've got some people who make thousands a month. But you'll be surrounding yourself with the right people who won't be egging you on to, oh, trade this, trade that, trade that. You'll be if you're overtrading, you'll stick out like a sore thumb. Whether that would help with the discipline, I don't know, but I often think that surrounding yourself with the right people helps.
Yeah,
It doesn't guarantee it, but it helps if you're surrounding yourself. So, although we'll have a laugh in the main room, the trading room, hopefully, we do take seriously. It isn't a free for all. It's it's there for people to learn and learn from good profitable traders. We have a lot of good people in there. And we don't have any hassle. What would they gain? Uh, I've tried to think. I don't hide anything in my videos because I'm at the time of my life. I don't need to keep anything secret. I'll answer any question honestly. I've put 45 years, 60 years with horses probably into the videos and the knowledge and the understanding of how things go. Um, if somebody genuinely wants to learn, I'm happy to spend as much time with them as I did with you. Uh, having said that, don't think I'm any angel. I can be a twat and a half if you if you mess about or um, I've told you 3 times, you know, I don't know, don't do this. And if you keep doing it, well, I won't be so polite the third time. I can get very impatient. But what will they get? There's lots of people as you have. turned your trading around from becoming an unprofitable trader to being
Mm.
a profitable trader. Um, you possibly have as good a chance as any, but there's no guarantees. It isn't no get rich quick, and it
I,
won't
I
happen.
think, I
It
think,
won't
I think,
happen instantly.
yeah,
You got to put
yeah.
the graft in. You know, at the end of every month, we've just got the end of every month. I get some people send me the results. So the chap I spoke to 2 years ago, gone March, Jason, um, and he's been green every month since we had the phone call. Send me his results. But you know, it's taken him 2 and a bit years to get where he is now, to earning, you know, proper sort of money. But I do get, going back to probably some of your earlier questions, people think they're going to do that in 3 or 4 weeks. Why they
Mm.
would, I don't know. Um, if you do the right things and if you listen to people like that who are typing in the rooms, there is nothing whatsoever I do that anyone can't do or learn to do. Nothing. You can do it. It's down to you, and I'll help as much as possible. Um, as you know, I'll say about you, and I'll say to your face as you sat there, you're not the greatest horseman in the world or the greatest race reader in the world, but you are a profitable trader. You are one of the 5%. And as long as you have the right mindset, the right application, and I'll help as much as possible, there's no reason why you can't be profitable. None whatsoever. Um,
I think just the fact that they become, so as you mentioned, surrounded by good traders, and they don't realize it straight away. But when they're in the trading group and when they're in the Telegram rooms, they start to realize that the emphasis is on a whole different thing. It's not on about trading, 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 trading. It's being selective, being careful, being cautious, always looking for reasons not to trade rather than looking for reasons to trade. And it stands out. And new members always stand out. There was a guy, I'm sorry, I've been in the room much lately, but there was a guy joined not so long back. We were all in the room at like, you know, 12 o'clock, whatever time the races started. And then we all sort of said, right, bye, we're off. And then 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night, he was still typing in the room. And I was thinking, yeah, you're in trouble here, mate. You just, but it takes them a while to learn that that's a big
mm.
mistake, doesn't it? They have to
it's
learn that.
it's been quite interesting over the 5 or 6 years I've done this that, um, let's say there's been 600 members in that 6 years, and of which 100 are profitable and 500 have fallen by the wayside. There's exactly the same traits. All those 500 would have very, very similar traits, and the 100 will have similar traits. And as you say, you'll see the person typing at 6 o'clock at night and this, that, and the other. You can spot instantly you're going to have to change your ways so you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
And I won't embarrass them initially. I might later on if they're still there 3 months later. But initially, I'll message them privately saying, you know, how's it going? Um, you've been there a fair while. Just be careful about over trading, etc. Um, so, but I do think, you know, if you're in a room full of gamblers, well, it's a bit like me stopping smoking analogy earlier, isn't it? If you're just stopping smoking and you're going to go and sit in the smoking room at the pub, it's going to be hard not to have one, isn't it?
Yeah, very hard. Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you've just stopped, but you're in a room full of non-smokers, or what I'd like to think that the services are professional traders. We're not, if you want to come and have a laugh, have a gamble, have a joke, mess about, then don't bother joining. It's a professional group for professional traders that want to learn to trade professionally, profitably, consistently, like work. It's a work thing. It's not just a bit of a laugh room. It's
There's certainly new members as well, where because normally what happens is if you're in the room and I'm in the room or
mm,
whatever, people are in the room and then there's an easy trade,
mm,
then you probably find that if there's
mm,
an easy trade that fits the back for profit criteria, then basically we should all be on it pretty well,
mm,
most of us. And so you'll get seven or eight of us, 10 of us go, yeah, I did that
mm,
one. Thanks very much. Bye. See you tomorrow, sort of thing. And but then occasionally I've done that. I've done my trade. I've switched Bat Angel off, but I'm maybe doing my spreadsheet or I'm just sat at
mm,
my desk still, working on my business or whatever. And then I see somebody type a
mm,
thing in saying, "Oh, I traded such and such," and I'm thinking, well, I've just watched that race. I've
mm.
just watched it on the telly because I still have the telly
Yeah.
on, when I'm not even when I'm not trading, I
Yeah,
still
I'm
have
the
the
same.
telly
Yeah.
on. And I'm thinking, well, that horse was never in less than second place, and how
Mm,
come it can't possibly be a trade if it's in
mm,
second place or first? How can it be a trade? So I've like got the remote
mm,
controller and rewound it back, and I'm thinking, well, I don't know where that trade came from.
mm,
And when I've typed in the room saying when did you enter, and he said, oh, I did entered here and there, whatever, you know, and they have the mindset when they first start. Yeah, but it was a green, so it was a good trade. No, you can do a green that's like a terrible trade, and you can do a red that's actually a good trade. You just got to be unlucky. But if you're over trading, you're trading too late in the race. I mean, there's another case in point the other week, a few weeks back, when I watched somebody and they said, "Oh, I traded so and so." I could see the jockey going for the whip. Well, yeah, I saw him going for the whip as well, but he was coming around the bend. It was about furlong and a half to go. What are you doing trading then? That was just insane. But
Oh
that's
yeah, and you'll get people that will argue, "Oh yeah, it was a green trade." So usually my next question is, so before you joined, then you only just joined. What was your P&L for the last 12 months?
mm.
Um, and I very, very rarely ever get a figure or an answer. It's well, so and so, so and so, and so and so, so and so, and I do quite well on this, and I do quite well on. It's a bit like I'm sure you were a poker player, or you still are a poker
Yeah.
player. You ask them around the poker player, how do you get on? Well, two won and two broke even. So you ask them what the P&L was like, and you think, were you doing the same things you did before you joined? And your P&L, you lost 200 quid every month for 3 years. Why are you expecting anything different? So you're going to have to do something different. Otherwise, you're going to get the same results you've had. But there will, I say, going back to those, you get the same traits. When I ask those people, yeah, they'll come up with any excuse and tell me what their figure was for the last 12 months.
The
Um,
other thing I'll say then, because obviously you're too modest, I would say that apart from the Telegram groups, which is brilliant, they'll get the daily information Telegram group, which is like a read only, where you put like a course report on every course, telling everybody this is your last entry point, this is your exit point, and all that. So they get all that sort of stuff. Uh, you'll also you also go through the race selection and pick the ones that fit our criteria for various things and post that up so people have that done for them.
I do a
And
daily
also,
video, yeah, every day
yeah,
except for Sunday where
daily
I'll.
video. And you'll also uh, not every day, but you'll record your trades occasionally and post them up in the room fully. I mean, obviously, I know that sometimes you put a little video on Twitter where they can just see when you've greened up. They don't see the important bit, which is where you entered and why. Obviously, they'll get to see all of that. And also, again, probably the biggest thing that there's what 300 odd videos in there, more than 300 videos to
I
watch.
think it's three, four, five, four, yeah, maybe 400 videos. Yeah, the stuff on Twitter, if you do see the videos on Twitter, I consciously don't put anything on Twitter that is going to give anything too much away because obviously we've got paying members and it's not fair to them, to be honest. So if you see anything on Twitter and think you've what's it, I specifically only ever put certain stuff on Twitter because it's not fair for the people that have been loyal and good to me and been part of the service, some for many, many years as you have. So yeah, the snippets, there might be a 10-20 second video, but it could be a 10-15 minute video. Say I did one the other day on just highlighting the point, don't believe the commentaries, etc. Even turn the commentaries off, etc. So I did a video on that. So if anything untoward or different happens, I might not have even looked at the race, might have been later on, but somebody's pointed out, I'll do a little video and put it in the room explaining what's happened. So somebody might ask me, uh, I don't understand changing legs or the horse on the wrong leg. I heard you mention it. So I'll do a little video of changing legs or something, or yeah, squeezed along, pushed
The other
along.
thing as well, I think that probably the best thing that I've had really when I joined is the fact that you can book a one-to-one phone call. I mean, why even members who are members don't take advantage of that very often, and it's bonkers to me. You know,
Oh yeah,
why
you
not?
can have a. I'll speak to anybody as much as they want. I haven't got any friends, so I'm happy to speak to somebody. So uh, you can book one. I don't. It's not particularly limited. I suppose if every member wanted to call every day, then I would have to limit it. But um, uh, those that speak to me hopefully say that yeah, I'm not quite the miserable twat that I appear to be, and generally, and we have the main room as well. So as much as I'd say it is work, it is serious. We also have just the main room that we can have a laugh in. I'll type in I'm having a sausage and egg McMuffin on a Friday, and if you want to post any jokes in, we have the main because it can be a lonely old job trading. If you've done well, then type in
Yeah.
I've done well, or I try and say if somebody's had a profitable month, well done. It is a lonely old job. The wife doesn't understand it, um, etc. Yeah.
And also as well, the other thing as well, which I did a few times when I first started, is I used to always used to record. I don't tend to bother anymore, but I used to record every race I ever traded, whether I left it and didn't trade it, or whether I traded it or not, or whatever. I used to just literally film every race that I traded, or every race that I watched, I should say. And there was a couple of times when I sent a recording saying, "I've done this trade. Can you watch it, and then give me feedback on what you think?" So, because obviously you don't watch all the races, do you? You're not there all not
No, no.
4 hours. So I found it useful to send you a video for you to review my trade. So that's very useful as
People
well.
do that. They say there's people send me the results each month. Jason used to send me them every week, but be honest, it's just week in week out profit now. So now he just sends me them once a month, and um, he thinks I read the emails that he sends because he puts a great long 4 paragraphs. It
Don't
did.
tell he's going to watch this, you know.
No, he caught me out. Well, he caught me out with it before because he'd sent me a long email, but he'd written in the last 2 or 3 lines but there won't be one next week because I'm going on holiday to Tenerife or somewhere for 2 weeks. So a week later, I thought he hasn't sent me his results. So I messaged him, where's your results this week? You haven't had a bad week, have you? He said, did you not read me email, the bottom of it? I said, actually, no, I don't bother reading them, to be honest. I just look at your figure. So he caught me out. So, yeah.
All right then. Okay, right. Now last time you let the people have a 10% code. Can we do that again this time? If anybody wants
Yeah.
to join, do a
Yeah,
10%.
I've already paid for Tracy's summer house, so yeah, you can have
All
it.
right.
I
Okay,
can't I
so
can't remember what horse paid for Tracy's summer house. Was it something at Cheltenham? But anyway, I've paid for it, so
oh, you had a
she's
big one at Cheltenham, didn't you? I can't remember what it was now.
no, I can't.
You mentioned earlier,
Constitutional.
yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, you mentioned earlier on about the certain track you don't like, and Cheltenham's one for me. I rarely get a good trade at Cheltenham. I
Yeah, I
think
don't.
Siskin's the only one I can remember really.
Yeah, I'm not a big lover on Cheltenham.
The problem is nothing's off the bridle till they get to at least the third last.
Yeah,
So
the ordinary meetings aren't too bad, but the top meeting, the top horses, aren't there, to be honest. So, but I enjoy it just as we've got Royal Ascot coming up. I doubt there'll be much there at Royal Ascot for us, but it's enjoyable meeting to watch. Although we did get Shishkin a few years ago there, but not Shishkin, that's Stayer, Stradivarius,
not even.
Stradivarius. Yeah.
Brilliant. All right then. Well, I'll leave the link below if anybody wants to join Back for Profit
Thank you
with the
very
10%
much.
with the 10% discount code. And thanks very much for your time, Andrew. Been
Thank
brilliant.
you. Have a good one. Take care.
Thanks a lot,
Bye,
mate.
bye,
Ta-ra,
bye.
buddy.